Tommy Robinson, real name Stephen Yaxley Lennon, was cleared this morning of the allegations of failing to comply with the police dispersal direction, a direction issued under Section 35 of the Antisocial Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act 2014, which means, of course, that the subsequent arrest was unlawful, for which he will doubtless seek damages for unlawful arrest and detention. Many of you have asked me to do a video about this topic, and indeed I did one before where I explained what this direction is. I will replay that for you in a minute so you've got some context, but the reason I couldn't say too much about it before is obviously because it's a live case with significant consequences, and as I said in a post this morning on X, there are some serious issues in this case, and serious failings in this case, which I'll come back to in a moment. I'll also point you towards a very useful blog on the matter from the Magistrates blog, which I'll link in the description below. Go and have a read and you can see a little bit more perspective on it there as well. But first of all, if you are new to me, I'm Daniel Shensmith, a barrister of England and Wales, which is one reason I'm limited in certain things that I can say. But I would be very grateful if you would subscribe to my channel. That's how I can grow my audience. YouTube will spread me out to more people and my ever-growing audience will continue to grow. I'd be very grateful if you do that now and like the video while you're down there. Also, if you hit the notification bell, it will give you notifications of new videos as they come out. So first of all, let's do a quick recap on what this Section 35 direction is, what it means, how it's issued, and then we'll come back to the issues in the case. Now, the power to require somebody to disperse the area is under Section 35 of the Antisocial Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act of 2014. This section provides a power for police officers and designated police community support officers to deal with individuals so long as they're 10 years or older, either if they are engaging in antisocial behaviour or crime or disorder, or, more importantly, when it is likely to occur within the locality and they might have something to do with it or their presence might have something to do with it. And so under this power, there are two requirements which must be authorised by an inspector or above. One of those is that this officer must have reasonable grounds to suspect that the behaviour of the person has contributed to or is likely to contribute to members of the public in the locality being harassed, alarmed or distressed, or crime and disorder in the locality. The second requirement is that the officer considers that this direction to leave the area is necessary for removing or just reducing the likelihood of crime, disorder or antisocial behaviour. And if someone fails to comply with that notice, they will be committing an offence in its own right. So coming back to the Tommy Robinson case and its conclusion, it was determined this morning that there was no case to answer, which essentially means that when taking the prosecution case, even at its highest, that no reasonable and properly directed tribunal of fact could find an offence proved to the requisite criminal standard. That might be a bench or it might be a jury. If there is no case to answer, then it doesn't matter what the prosecution would say. Even taking the evidence at its highest, they could not convict on the evidence before it. So that's essentially what happened this morning, and there's a very good reason for that conclusion. Now, whilst I said there was a very good reason for the conclusion, it was also a rather embarrassing one, because if you recall that the authorization needs to come from someone of at least inspector rank, it was determined in this case that the inspector who granted the authorization under Section 34 put down the wrong date. He put down 10 AM on the 24th instead of 10 AM on the 26th, meaning that the authorization would have lapsed. And the defending barrister, Alistair Williamson, King's Counsel, put it to the inspector, this document is not correct. Can we have any confidence that a lawful order was in place? And the inspector duly replied, no. And so without any effective authorization under Section 34, that made the Section 35 direction itself invalid. And so from that point forward, there was indeed no case to answer. But there's another more pressing and fundamental point to all of this, which I've spoken about in previous videos and which has been debated heavily on X, and that is whether or not Tommy Robinson is a journalist. Now, many people will have different views on this, and my video and my views here are not telling any one person or another that you are right or wrong, but there is no specific legal definition of a journalist. Yes, there are certain groups and certain accreditations that you can get as press members and be employed by a reputable, recognised news company or organisation. However, anyone can be a journalist, and anyone, particularly if they have a certain following, which in this case he clearly does have a following, so it is quite the argument that he would be a journalist in any sense of the word. Given any kind of vast following on social media, anybody could really call themselves a journalist, be it a citizen journalist or otherwise. Even the Information Commissioner's Office refers to citizen journalists in its guidance documents, because it is recognised that anybody with a camera and or a microphone can go along and cover news events. And so doing, and in covering certain events, if somebody does claim themselves to be a journalist, and they may have a significant following and social media presence in order to back up the assertion that they are indeed a journalist, this would be a reasonable assertion to be in a given place at a given time to cover an event as a journalist. That being the case, even if the authorization were granted properly and the direction was valid and effective as opposed to defective, there could still be a perfectly reasonable challenge to that, given that Tommy Robinson considers himself a journalist. But to coin a phrase from the excellent article on the Magistrate's blog, which I'll link in the description below for you to go and read, what a total waste of time. Let me know your thoughts and comments in the box below. Don't forget to subscribe, ring that notification bell if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.